This is the Alden Report.
Hey, it's Mike Alden. Listen, before we get into this next episode of the Alden Report, I want to tell you about a company and a service that I believe can take your company to the next level. And that company is Penji, P-E-N-J-I. Penji is an unlimited design service that connects you with the top 2% of graphic designers in the world. You can get creative output like as if you had an internal team, but without that additional overhead cost. Look, if you want things like logos to flyers to digital art, even UX and UI, Penji is the company for you. I know because I've used them. Look, if you're the person within your company that's doing all the graphic design work, or maybe you even have a team and you're overwhelmed and you want to outsource it to a company that you know you can trust. Look, we know all these other services out there. Penji is like no other graphic design service that I've ever seen, and I've used them, and I highly recommend going to Penji.co. Because you're a listener and a subscriber of the Alden Report, you can actually get 15% off of your first month with Penji. It's really, really simple. Go to Penji.co, enter in the code Alden15, and you'll get 15% off of your first month. Listen, if you want things like logos, custom illustrations, even a website, and you want it all under one plan that's not going to lock you in forever, then visit Penji.co, and when you sign up, make sure you enter the code Alden15. Once you submit your order, it's really, really simple. Here's the thing. They get your custom designs back to you within 48 hours or less. So go on and visit Penji.co and enter in the code Alden15. That's Penji.co and enter in the code Alden15.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Michael Alden. We are here in Blue Bay Studios. I'm rocking my glasses as always. These are a little bit more expensive than my 99-cent glasses. These are like $17, but I think, as we would say here from Boston, I think they look wicked cool. And I'm wicked excited for my next guest. My next guest is a former Navy SEAL with over 26 years of service. He's also an entrepreneur and the founder of an organization called Naked Warrior Recovery, a CBD company that focuses on helping veterans and first responders in their overall health and wellness. We're going to talk a little bit about his service, 26 years of service. We're going to talk a little bit about him being a Navy SEAL, which, you know, there aren't many of these guys out there that are willing to talk, so to speak. But we're also going to talk about things that are going on in the world and why he started his company. We're also going to talk about how he teaches people to get naked. Please help me welcome William Branham. William, thanks so much for being my guest.
Hey, I'm wicked stoked to be here. So, as we say in the South. So
I love it. So you're standing up already, just right out of the gate, just already just showing people the health and wellness. And I'm sitting here down and I just had lunch and I'm like kind of feeling a little sluggish. But so look, man, first of all, I know people say this all the time, but thank you again for your service. And we've talked offline a little bit about, you know, what you've done, and it's super interesting. So I hope you have a lot of time to talk a little bit about it. So
I got all day. And
all right,
you know
perfect.
what? I stand because I get excited sometimes. And like, I'm like, it's not good to like throw chairs out of the way when I start talking. And that's just, I think that's a bad way to, you know, start the day, is put a hole in the wall or something. So just start standing, start the way you want to be.
All right, man. Well, you get me fired up just from talking to you. You came on my Instagram and went live. Okay, so let's start with not the very, very beginning, but we talked a little bit about this before. So you have 26 years of service in the Navy. Tell us a little bit about why you made that decision to just enlist and then, you know, kind of go down the journey that you've gone through in your military career.
I'll give you the quick version. I can do a very long version, but I'll give you the quick version.
Give me whatever. Listen,
when I was a kid,
you give me whatever version you want, man.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I grew up in Meridian, Mississippi. There's not a whole lot around there. I hunted. I was not a very good fisherman, but I liked running around in the woods. I was in the Boy Scouts. I also watched a lot of Kung Fu theater. So number one, I wanted to be a ninja, and I'm still working on the ninja piece. But then I also wanted to be some sort of a commando. I didn't really know what that really meant. I knew that I liked, you know, playing capture the flag and stuff in Boy Scouts. I liked sneaking around. I liked shooting guns and swimming and things like that. And I eventually became an Eagle Scout, and I went to the National Jamboree, which is this giant Boy Scouting event where they bring in like Boy Scouts from all over the world. And I, at that event, I met Steven Spielberg. I also met the George Bush #1 when he was president. He came out and like did part of that. So while I was out there or on that trip from Meridian, Mississippi, I met another kid, and he wanted to be a commando, maybe a ninja also, but he also wanted to fly F-14s. The movie Top Gun was out around that time. And we also won like the first Gulf War it was all air power. So I was like, okay, check. What's a Navy SEAL, by the way? And so he kind of explained to me, it's like, super special forces guys. And they also swim. And this guy was a really good swimmer. I think he swam in high school. Where I grew up in Meridian, Mississippi, we had football, baseball, and basketball. We didn't have any other sports out there, and we're super country bumpkin. But I was in the Boy Scouts. I was a lifeguard. I also worked at the rifle range at summer camp. So I liked shooting guns. I liked swimming. So I was like, okay, maybe I want to be a Navy SEAL. And so the summer between my 11th grade and 12th grade of high school, the Navy recruiter called my grandmother's house, where I just happened to be one day, and said, hey, have you ever thought about being in the Navy? And my initial answer is no, because I grew up in a Navy town. My dad was in the Navy. Well, number one, the Navy has the ugliest uniforms of everyone. Back in the day, they wore bell bottoms. They wore dungarees, the little round white cap, the ugliest uniform ever. And because there was they call them technical schools or A schools in the military, or in the Navy anyway, to get you go to these schools to get trained up on what job you're going to do in the Navy. And there was a school there in my town of Meridian, Mississippi, and all these young Navy kids were a bunch of idiots. They would go to the mall. They would do, they were just acted like idiots. And I was like, I would never be one of those guys. And then one day I became one of those guys. I'm sure I was just as big of an idiot as those guys were. And people in those towns that I, did some of my time in hated me just as much as I hated those kids. But, Marines were way cooler. Like the commercials, they were like fighting dragons with swords and shields, and they had really cool uniforms. And, but no one really knew, like those guys, their screws are a little loose sometimes. I'm not judging. They have an awesome mission, and I'm just making fun of them because I can. But some of my role models growing up, who I wanted to be, John Rambo, Chuck Norris. He was in, this movie called Delta Force, and they rode dirt bikes.
You look a little bit like Chuck. You look a little bit like Chuck Norris, a little bit.
The bald version of Chuck, I guess.
Right.
And they were shooting like rockets off of dirt bikes and things like that. And it was like super cool movie. John Wayne was a Green Beret in Vietnam. So these were like, some of my role models growing up. And so I was like, I want to do something like that. So, eventually the Navy recruiter called me, and he's like, hey, why don't you come on down, and like we could talk about you becoming a Navy SEAL and an F-14 pilot. So I went down there. I watched a super cheesy, bad GCI, special effects video of these guys like jumping out of a helicopter into the water, getting in a Zodiac, going to the beach, doing a little reconnaissance with some binoculars. And then they, the next scene is they're like leaving a building, still in their wetsuits, which is not realistic for real, but running out of the building and then it blowing up behind them. And I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. Where do I sign? And then how do I also become an F-14 pilot? They're like, okay, hold on. You got a lot of stuff to do before you get there. But eventually I joined the Navy before I graduated high school. So that summer between my 11th and 12th grade of high school, I joined the Navy in the delayed entry program.
Wow. Then
I graduated high school and I went off to boot camp like 4 weeks later. And so I went to boot camp. So let me just even back up. So I joined the Navy, and in the Navy, you have to do a Navy job. And the job that I chose to do was a gunner's mate, which sounds like you work with guns, but really you don't. You work with pneumatics, electronics, and hydraulics. Because really what the Navy wants you to do is they want you to work on these big gray things out in the ocean, floating around, which, if you can own the sea, if you can own the oceans, you control the world. You control, supply chains, you control port security, you control really everything. And so that is the Navy's mission, to sea power. And, currently China is actually trying to take some of that sea power back away from us. But that's a political thing. That's, a different conversation. But, so I went and I became a gunner's mate. And in order to go to BUDS, in order to become a SEAL, go to SEAL training. And along the way, I made some tactical errors. Number one, I didn't train to take that screening test to become a SEAL. So I, in boot camp, I took the test. I did the swim. I did pretty well. And then I did the push-ups. And there's a minimum score that you have to score. You should never go for the minimum. You should go for the maximum. That was a different mindset I had back then. And I went for the minimum for 52 push-ups. And I could only crank out 40 push-ups. And so I failed the test. So it was like you swim 500 yards, not a big deal. Then you do push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups. And then you run 1.5 miles in boots and long pants. It's not really that hard, but I was like 18 years old. I hadn't trained really a day in my life. I thought I was an okay swimmer, an okay runner. I thought I was in okay shape, but I failed that test. And then I went to boot camp or A school, and it was cold up in the Chicago area. I'm from Mississippi. I don't like the cold, and I don't like to get up early in the morning. So I didn't take the time to go retake the test. Even though I was working out and getting stronger and better, I didn't take the time to go and take that test. So what I ended up doing is I, towards the end of that 6 month of gunner's mate school, there was an opportunity to pick more orders. So I could go to another school for 4 more months to work on a very technical piece of Navy equipment. And then my thought was, I'll go to that school, I'll get in better shape, then I'll take the test and I'll go to SEAL training. Well, what I didn't know is because I took those orders, I took that school for 4 more months, I was obligated to go live on a ship for 24 months in Yokosuka, Japan.
Wow.
And like, you're still going to that ship in Japan. That's the deal. So I'm not a quitter. So I finished the school. I got the certification. I went to my ship in Japan. And then when it was time for me to rotate to the my next duty station, I called up my detailer and I said, hey, I am planning on dropping a package. I want to go to BUDS. I want to become a SEAL. And he was like, you can do that, but I will not release you because you are too critical to the Navy. Because, the Navy, they only care about those big, great things out in the ocean. They do not care about the SEAL teams. And so I got letters of recommendation. First of all, I failed the screening test the second time I took it, this time on a run. And there's a story behind that where my ego sort of got in the way. I'm like, I beat all the other guys in the swim, the push-ups, the pull-ups, the sit-ups. I was faster, I was stronger, I was better than everyone else because they were going for EOD or diver. We're all around the same screening test. The requirements are different for each organization. And for, the SEAL teams, they have the highest standard, the highest requirements. And so I beat everyone. I'm like, I got this. And I just kind of cruised across the finish line on the run. And I ended up failing the run by 12 seconds because I was like, I got this, no big deal. So my ego, I messed up. So I had to take it again. But anyway, I eventually passed it. And so now I think I'm on my way. And my detailer, the gunner's mate detailer says, no, you can't go. The SEAL detailer says, we can't write you orders until your gunner's mate detailer says no. So I'm about 6 weeks from, I've got letters of recommendation. I've done all the medical stuff. I've done everything that I need to do. And then the chief of naval operations comes to my little ship in Yokosuka, Japan. There's big ships, there's medium-sized ships, little ships. I was on a little ship, and I was on the oldest ship, I think, in the Navy at the time. And he came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan, and he had CNO's call. So the chief of naval operations, just to kind of put this in context, he is the most senior person in the Navy, most senior in the Navy. The only person that is more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States.
Wow.
No one else is more senior than this guy. So he comes to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan, and says, does anyone have any questions? I raised my hand. I said, yes, over here. And I was the second person he called. I joined the Navy to be a SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go. My detailer won't let me go. I totally threw that guy under the bus. I think I deserve a chance to go, and he won't let me go. So he turns to my commanding officer of the ship and said, is he a good guy? He's like, yeah, he was a sailor of the quarter this quarter. So he's like, check, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date, which was 6 weeks later. I was off heading to California to become a SEAL, to go to SEAL training. And then in SEAL training, I had many failures because, that whole thing, I didn't train properly. So I had a bunch of injuries. that caused some delays in my graduation. So SEAL training is 6 months long, or at least the school is. And it took me a short 13 months to get through that block of training. Eventually I got through it. I learned lots of lessons along the way.
All right. So well, boy, lots of stuff going on there. I know you, like you said, this is kind of the short version so far. So you go to what is called Bud School. Is that the school that you go to become a Navy SEAL?
Stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. Yeah.
All right. So you go there, and you briefly said that you had not passed a bunch of things as well. And we talk a lot about, and I want to hear about some of those things, but there's a couple things that you said earlier too, as well. You had not passed the test, like 2 or 3 times, I think you said, but twice.
Yeah.
And then what was interesting was that risk or that chance that you took to essentially go above someone's head in the military. That's kind of a big deal, right? I mean, that could have backfired on you, right?
Yeah. I mean, potentially. I made sure that I told as many people as I could prior to include my commanding officer, because it wasn't my idea. Someone just said, hey, this guy has made changes for other people. Like, he made common sense changes in the military to some of the rules that we have. And so they were like, well, why don't you ask him? And I was like, okay, what do I have to lose? I can stay on the ship, or they're not going to put me in the brig or kick me out of the Navy because I asked, someone a question. And I also told the commanding officer, I'm like, hey, when the CNO comes, I'm going to ask him if he'll let me go to Buds, because I mean, I didn't even know. I was just I'm a dumb kid from Mississippi. I'm not that smart, but I have a goal. I have something that I want to do. This is the reason that I joined the Navy. Well, why don't I just do everything I can to make that happen?
Yeah. And I think that's really important. And that's why I wanted to get to it, because, look, I mean, it better than anybody. There's a protocol, there's rankings, there's, your place within the food chain, so to speak, in the military. And when you ask that question, you certainly were not in kind of the higher ranking, so to speak. And, you took a chance.
I was at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much at the bottom.
So, talk a little bit about that and how that also translates into real life as well. Because my first book is called Ask More, Get More. And I just love that story. Talk a little bit about, what you did and how that can apply to, people's everyday lives.
So, it goes back to what this shirt that I'm wearing that says Get Naked. And, the N is for never quit, and we can go into that in a minute. The K, or the A, is accept failure. So failure is this, I failed the screening test several times. I asked a bunch of people, they just told me no. And what I found is that I laid a foundation of failure. And failure is one of the things that I've learned the most from. Failure is this beautiful teacher that it doesn't matter, if I have a Harvard professor teaching me something, I'm not going to retain it all, because again, I'm not that smart, or I don't listen that well. My ADD kicks in or something. So I have to go out there and I have to do it myself, and I have to put in the work, and I have to fail. I mean, if you think about the greatest, achievements of all time, some of the greatest, failures of all time, you think about Thomas Edison. He discovered 10,000 ways to not create the incandescent light bulb. And then on 10,001, there it was. Elon Musk and Steve Jobs were both fired from companies that they had started. Elon Musk was fired from the first company as the CEO, fired from the first company he started. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time. He's missed more than 3,000 shots in his career. And so this is, failure is just this foundation that we build. We miss a shot, we get fired from something, we fail something. That's fine. Don't be discouraged. You just have to keep building this foundation. And so the challenge is this giant wall that's in front of you, and you can go around it or over it or under it or through it. And so what I choose to do is I choose that failure, and I just build stairs, and then I hop right over it. Once I build that foundation, I build those stairs high enough, you can just hop right over that wall, and it's no big deal. And then there's another wall on the other side of that. Okay, you start over again. Not a big deal. You just have to accept failure and push through it.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you talking about climbing over the wall, I'm envisioning you like in the military actually climbing over the wall and getting to the next wall, and doing all those things. But as a Navy SEAL, do you get to the point where, I mean, I don't know how to even ask this question, but failure is not really an option, right? I mean, like for some of the military operations that you're going in on, and some of them probably still classified, but
Right.
that like failure is just not an option, right?
So on the execution of the mission, but what you don't see is all the work and all the failure that leads up to that. So there's a saying in the SEAL teams that says, "Train like you fight," and really you should train. Your training should be more challenging and more disruptive than the actual operation that you go on. And I've had some missions where they were like, we trained super hard and the mission was super easy because we had contingencies worked out. We knew everything that could possibly go wrong. Not a big deal. We failed. There was a lot of failure back here in the back, but on the X, it didn't matter what happened. We had an answer for it. And then there were times where, maybe we were, and this has been true for me in my pretty much my entire adult life, is when I became a little bit lackadaisical, when I didn't really prepare and I thought, I got this, it's not a big deal. We go execute that mission and everything goes to shit. And, now we're failing on target. Now we were supposed to go out there for, a couple of hours and we're still out there 2 weeks later, being resupplied because we didn't plan for the actual everything that could have gone wrong. So failure it may be a no fail mission and you'll get through it eventually, but really the failure happens in the backside. So you prepare, and then you go and execute. And the same thing is true in business. The same thing is true in pretty much anything that we do. Relationships, it doesn't matter what it is. Getting a degree in college, creating going and doing, becoming a specialized medical person or whatever it is. You're going to get this failure. You're going to get this learning back here on the backside. And those are the lessons that you're going to take forward in order to execute whatever your mission is in your life.
In a second, I want to talk a little bit more about what we're talking about, this failure, but I actually want to talk to you. I'll tell you what my next question is going to be about: having a contingency plan. In business, you always see there's this school of thought that, hey, you need to go all in, and you shouldn't have a plan B in order to be successful. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that and how that related to your military career and also life. Do you have trouble sleeping or even falling asleep? Well, I certainly do. Do you have aches and pains that limit your mobility? Is your life filled with stressful situations or even toxic personalities? What if I told you that I found a solution for you, created by a retired U.S. Navy SEAL to address his own sleep issues, his own aches and pains, and his own challenges from multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan? Well, that company is Naked Warrior Recovery. They're a Navy SEAL, combat veteran-owned and operated CBD company. Their dedication to quality and effectiveness is carried over from a lifetime of service and elite unconventional special operations teams to a small unconventional company dedicated to providing the highest quality CBD on the market. Someone asked me, they said, Mike, what's the difference between Naked Warrior Recovery CBD and the CBD I can buy at the gas station? Well, my reply is simple. What's the difference between high quality sushi from a 5-star restaurant and gas station sushi? Well, I think we all know the answer. Are you willing to roll the bones for gas station sushi? Why would you take the same chance with gas station CBD? That's why I want you to go on and visit Naked Warrior Recovery by going to www.nw-recovery.com. That's www.nw-recovery.com. Because you're a listener of the Alden Report, we want to do something special for you where you can actually receive 15% off of your entire order. When you place your order, enter in the code podcast1 to receive 15% off of your entire order. Again, it's podcast1 at checkout. Podcast and the number 1. Again, visit www.nw-recovery.com and enter podcast1 at checkout to receive 15% off of your entire first order. We are on with William Branham. William is a former Navy SEAL with over 26 years of service. He's also the founder, and we haven't even really talked a little bit about it yet, but we're going to get to it. And he's the CEO and founder of Naked Warrior Recovery, a CBD company focused on the recovery of veterans and first responders. If you'd like some more information about William and his company, you can just check out, you can just go to nw-recovery.com. Again, it's nw-recovery.com. You can check them out also on Instagram at Naked Warrior Recovery, and also pretty much all the other social media handles as well. So if you'd like some more information about William, go to nw-recovery.com, or also you can just find him, like I said, on Instagram. He's pretty active there. So, this theory of the school of thought in business, you hear it all the time. And I think a lot of it is just, people just like to hear themselves speak when they say, don't have a plan B. Never have a plan B, because if you have a plan, if you have a plan B, then you're never going to really get to the plan A. What's your thoughts on that, on that kind of mindset?
So there's some value in there, but it's not completely explained. You may have a vision of whatever, fill in the blank, start a supplements company. We'll just use that as an example. And you start running into different legal challenges. You start running into, compliance issues. You start running into payment options, and
it sounds like you're describing the CBD industry.
There's some of that in there. That's an easy one for me to talk about. Just talking, in as far as like a challenge or a business, because. And you can say, I'm all in, and I'm going to go bankrupt, and I'm going to max out all of my credit cards and achieve this. But did you actually make a plan before you went into doing this? Because when you make a plan, you're going to have contingencies. If then. It's very binary, and some of it is just sort of like fly by the seat of your pants. But really, it's a really hard Sudoku puzzle. But it's just an if then. If this happens, then I have to do this. And those are still contingencies. In the SEAL teams, you were going to go get bad guy X. And, we may hit an IED on the way in. We may take an ambush on the way in. We may take casualties on the way in. If that happens, if we take casualties on the way in, we're probably not going to go finish that mission today. We'll still go finish that mission. So in business, you will hit roadblocks. You're going to have issues that aren't going to work out according to your plan. But if you don't have contingencies to pivot and navigate around these roadblocks, then you are going to set yourself up for failure. But if you're just going to try to plow through everything that is in front of you, and by the time you get to the objective, you have no people left, you have no money left to actually accomplish the mission or do the promos or the marketing or the whatever, that's mission failure. So you have to have the ability to navigate and to pivot off of the objective. The objective is still to get bad guy X, but maybe, we found out that, taking vehicles in is just not an option. So we're going to take helicopters in. Oh, well, they'll shoot the helicopters down. So maybe we have to take the helicopters in and land on the other side of this mountain, now march over this mountain and come in through the backside where they're not expecting us. So that's kind of it's not like you don't have a backup plan. You have lots of backup plans. The point is if you have an objective and you want to accomplish that mission, and that mission is 100% everything to you, then you just find different ways to get to it. And it may not be the straight line that you're expecting. And generally it's not.
Yeah, it's a great explanation, man. And I'm glad, that you explained it like that. And as I'm listening to you talk, you were talking about the failures that led up to ultimately the mission during that preparation. They talk about the 3 Ps, and I say add one more to it. And so I think that's also really important too. So if you're listening again, one of the key takeaways to what William's saying is someone who has prepared for a lot of things in his life is, I would say over prepare, right? I think that because like you said earlier, sometimes you go into these missions and they're easy.
There's no such thing as over prepared. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love it.
You want it to be easy. You want it to be like, oh, that was not a big deal. it's it's kind of weird when you like go and do it and you like face all these obstacles, and it's like you just like you're like in the Matrix, and you see bullets come by and you're just like, oh, no big deal. And that's kind of like, that's being over prepared, which is actually what you want. You don't want to be like prepared and you get shot in the face.
Yeah, you hear, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours in Outliers, and when you'd mentioned Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, and you'd hear that Kobe after a playoff game would go and shoot 1,000 shots or something like that. So this most successful people in the world, that's what they do. And it's also interesting too when you mention guys like Elon Musk or all these other people that are out in the public eye. People don't realize how much preparation went involved and how many times they had to overcome failure.
Right.
And, I want to talk now to kind of transition a little bit. So you started this company called Naked Warrior Recovery. But, I want to talk before we get into that. And, I'm a big fan of the CBD space, and I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing and the benefits of CBD. But I want to talk now about kind of what got you there, because you see kind of stuff like this in the movies or read about in some of the books where you have an alpha type personality like yourself, a guy who's go for 26 years, high energy, high stakes, the adrenaline, just like you probably don't even have blood. You probably just have adrenaline coming through your veins all day long. Tell us a little bit about, kind of the transition from military life to civilian life and what was going on with you. And then that ultimately what led you to, getting naked, I guess.
So my transition from the military was terrible. I like to say that it's the hardest military mission I've ever been on. And what I mean by that is when I was in the Navy, when I was in the teams, I always knew what my mission was. I knew who my team was. I knew what I was going to do when I woke up in the morning. I knew what I was going to do when I went to bed. I knew everything about my life. I had a mission. I had purpose. I had,
structure.
I had everything that I could ever want. The day that I got out of the military, every bit of that was gone. I mean, I was like replying to emails on my BlackBerry, because we used a BlackBerry because they're more secure or something. I'm not sure what. To like return emails the day before I was out of the Navy. And I was like, oh, hey, comms department, maybe you guys need this. I don't need to answer any more emails. And then I got out and I was like completely lost. I have some baggage from, 26 years in the military. I got some baggage from toxic relationships. So I was not doing awesome. I was, I had a bunch of noise in my head. It made it hard for me to sleep. So I just used a lot of alcohol and some prescription meds to like quiet the noise, but not really address the noise. And just so that I could go to sleep. And so I would like, drink myself to sleep every night. And then wake up in the morning and feel like crap, and then not really be able to function for the first few hours, and then like try to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with my life and my day and my whatever. And what I found is this is pretty typical behavior for really high achievers. If they're like professional athletes or CEOs of companies or what, like they blew a company up to $1 billion and then sold it, and then they're like, now what do I do? And they have no more purpose. Like their purpose was that team, that organization, that company, that whatever. And so I found that, veterans, this is like a huge thing for veterans. Like we have this mission, this awesome like purpose in life. And then one day it's all gone. And like, what is our purpose now? And we really struggle with that. So part of what Naked Warrior Recovery is it's a CBD company, but CBD was a modality that I used to help get my brain a little bit under control. Like it helped to quiet the noise. I tell people that water boils at 212 degrees and I was living at like 210 degrees. And when I started taking CBD, I didn't notice anything right away. There wasn't like, fairies and unicorns and rainbows and like, anything special happening in my life. But what I noticed over time, over about a 30-day period is, I was at 210 degrees and I eventually went to like 205 to 200. And I probably ended around 180, 185. So my fuse to get to that boiling point was a lot longer. And then I stopped taking CBD and I started getting closer to that fuse again. And I had different pains that started coming back. Like I still had pain, but the pain was just less. And then I took another brand of CBD and I got a little further away from that 212 degrees. And so then I found and I was like, there's something to this. I don't know what it is. It's not really tangible. I can't really tell, but I know that it's doing something for me. So I found an opportunity to start a CBD company because, I'm not the only person that has, is suffering like this. Lots of other veterans, because currently the Veteran Administration has noted that more than 22 veterans take their own lives every single day. We've lost more veterans to suicide than we have to 20 years of sustained combat. And yes, we've been in combat for 20 sustained years because this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So we've lost more veterans to suicide than combat. And so part of our mission at Naked Warrior Recovery is to make that 22 to 0, to reduce or eliminate veteran suicide.
Yeah, man. Like you said, there's a lot of CBD companies out there and a lot of great products out there. There's also a lot of shit products out there, but
there's a lot of shit products out there.
There's a lot of shit products out there. But what I really like about what you're doing is the mission, like the real mission. I know that you're focusing, you're kind of your front and center with military personnel and first responders because of the things that they see that, quite frankly, 99% of the world's population don't see these types of things and what that can really do to your brain. So I really appreciate that. But like you said as well, when I look at some of the things that you went through and, I just used the term PTSD earlier today with my wife, and I was, it's kind of joking with her, but like that was a real thing for you, right? And then
right.
when we talk about anxiety, and I think about, I've dealt with anxiety as a business person, and all the stuff that you're describing, people go through, and the brain essentially reacts the same way. It doesn't matter how we got there. So
many people go through, yeah,
right. You know what I mean? So you got there from your life in the military and the things you had to deal with, and other people get the same feeling, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. Like severe anxiety 100%. Is severe anxiety, right? And it's crippling, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's crippling. And I think about when I'm trying to think about you again as someone who was like you said, you had this life, and then all of a sudden it just ended. And I think about professional athletes, how that happens to them all the time. You hear about professional athletes and some of them also killing themselves, and, they have had other issues like, with PTE, I think it was called. But so talk a little bit about that part of the anxiety that people have and how kind of CBD helped you and has helped so many others with your company, Naked Warrior Recovery.
So I forgot the stat, but it's something like 40 million Americans above the age of 18 are diagnosed with some sort of anxiety disorder, and that's a huge number. And then if you extrapolate that down to the kids, under 18, it's almost half of that. It's almost 20 million. And I could have a zero off there,
right?
As a matter of fact, because it's been a little while since I've looked at those numbers too. But that's reality, and that's what people are, and that's just people who are diagnosed, who have gone the pharmaceutical route. And so what CBD has done for me is it's helped me. It doesn't mask my issues. That's what a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs do. They sort of mask the problem, or and that's what alcohol was doing as well. And so what I ended up doing is once I started taking CBD, I didn't have to rely on this masking of pharmaceutical or alcohol. I was able to actually have some good self-talk and really get naked. And what get naked is there's a side of it where the Naked Warrior was the predecessor to today's Navy SEAL, and I can talk about that later. But what get naked is we end up having this this anxiety, depression, these things, and a lot of it is caused by ego, because what happens is someone has attacked us, whether it's like a toxic relationship or a bad day at the office, or financially we've been attacked, or we get sucked into the political world that we're living in right now, and we feel like we're being attacked. And then it doesn't even matter if it's like a full-on frontal attack. It could be just someone like tapping you on the arm. And pain is cumulative. If I tap you on the arm, for about an hour, you're gonna be like, okay, bro, that's kind of annoying. If I do it for a week solid, I'm gonna leave a deep bruise. If I just keep going, your whole arm is gonna be black and blue. So, but it's just a little tap. It's not a big deal. And so, but we don't see what other people are experiencing. We don't see what kind of taps they're getting. And they could maybe share something with you that says, hey, I got this email from so-and-so and it really hurt my feelings. And you're like, that doesn't even say anything bad, but you don't know. It's just a tap. And so that's like the 850,000th tap that person has gotten. And it may not be from that one person, but it may just be all these different, taps on the shoulder is creating this pain. And so what CBD did is it helped me to like take this ego off, because I'm no longer in the fight. So in the SEAL teams, we put our body armor on, we go into harm's way. We sometimes need to use it. Sometimes it saves our lives. We come back, we take our armor off, and we go hit the showers and we recover and we get ready for the next mission. In life, we end up never taking that armor off. We never get naked. We never expose ourselves. If we feel like we're under attack, we feel like we're under attack 24/7, and we never get naked. We never take our armor off. So what we end up having to do is we rely on pharmaceuticals, we rely on alcohol, we rely on other things. Sometimes we just take our own life because we can't take it anymore. And so what get naked is we have this ego is our armor. We have this baggage that is our armor. Like other people put their crap on us and make us carry it around, and we don't have to do that. But it's a choice that we made because we're not quitters, we're not whatever mentality we have. So get naked is all about take that armor off, take that ego off and set it aside, put it in the corner, find some exposure, like expose yourself, be vulnerable for a little bit and find some healing. Take that baggage that other people are putting on you off and put it in the corner. Screw those people. Take care of you. You have to take care of number one before you can take care of anyone else. And this is a lesson I learned in the military. If you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to take care of you. And that doesn't sound right as a leader, but quite honestly, if you rely on someone else to do something for you, you're probably not going to be taken care of, even though you're taking care of everyone else. So even in the SEAL teams, it happens. But getting naked is taking your armor off, taking your ego off, and just like expose yourself for a little bit. And I think, really this is kind of like what naked means, because naked stands for never quit. And I don't mean like never quit smoking or drinking or porn or drugs or anything like that. It means never quit on yourself, never quit on the objective that you're trying to accomplish. The A is accept failure, and we've already covered that. Foundation of failure, will create victory in your life. The K is kill mediocrity. Most of us, especially in today's society, we get sucked into the screen. We get sucked into social media. We get sucked into Netflix or Amazon or scrolling or whatever. And we don't ever really improve our own life. Even by improving it by 0.0001%, that is killing mediocrity in your life. Hold on, I have a call coming in. I have to decline. I'm sure it's spam. I was on a roll there. Kill the mediocrity. The E is expose your fears. And this is one that nobody wants to do, because we all have these fears. Entrepreneurship, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, where you are in your life, stay-at-home mom, real estate agent, entrepreneur, business owner, CEO, HR department. We all have fears that are back in the back of our brain that we don't ever want to come out. We don't want people to think badly of us because we have this fear back there. And what happens is the fear ends up controlling us. The fear is the thing that creates all this stress, this anxiety, all this other nonsense that we are unable to control in our life. So if we are able to reach back there and pull that fear out and write it down, and I mean write it down with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper, not type it out, because there's this neurological chemical reaction that happens when you take a pencil and you write your fears out on paper. You now have exposed those fears to the world, to light, and they like to live in the darkness. They like to live back there where no one can see them except for you, and they would just control your mind and drive you around. And when you expose your fears, you now control your fears, because a friend of mine, a business coach, Sharon Srivatsa, he says fear does not exist on paper. And so if you write your fears down on a piece of paper, you've now controlled, they no longer are scary, and you read them out loud. Maybe you share them with a friend. You don't have to go. I mean, I think therapists and counselors are good. I don't particularly enjoy going to them. But I'm able to if I'm able to get naked and expose my fears, I don't have to. And then the D is do the work, because all of this is work. None of it is easy. It's simple. You just get naked. You just do these things. But it all takes work, and it all takes effort. So in order to get naked, it's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, I like that too. I'm a pretty simple guy as well. We're on with William Branham, a former Navy SEAL with over 26 years of active service in the Navy. He's also the founder and CEO of Naked Warrior Recovery, a CBD company focused on the recovery of veterans and first responders. But it also, we've talked a little bit. We're going to talk next about CBD and the whole industry next. But as if you've been listening up into this point and you're a stay-at-home mom, that's who I started to think of when we talked about the people who don't take care of themselves. It's usually the moms, right? They're always taking care of everybody else, and then they neglect to take care of themselves, and they have all their issues as well. And man, in that description of the little taps you gave, man, it was just so powerful as well. So listen, if you'd like some more information about William or his company, you can just go to nw-recovery.com. You can find him on Instagram at Naked Warrior Recovery, at Naked Warrior Recovery CBD, on Facebook, on Twitter at Naked Warrior Recovery. And you just Google them as well. If you're listening or watching right now, you got to be inspired. You got to be fired up because I am. And to listen to William, talk about the things that he's gone through as a former Navy SEAL, man, you've definitely gotten naked. You get naked right now here, telling people the things that you've gone through. And I really appreciate that type of honesty and candor, because a lot of people don't like to talk about that. And so I think it was really, really powerful. So, some of the other things too, for me, what got me interested in CBD, I'd never put anything cannabis related in my body. And when I say cannabis, I'm talking the entire, hemp and or marijuana, right? So when I first tried CBD and 5 years ago, I was like, wow, okay, I get it, right? I slept amazing. I've said this before. I've talked about it in my books. I've definitely had anxiety issues throughout my entire life. And I just kind of noticed that that what we like to call is the homeostasis, right? But the other big part is sleep, man. Talk about sleep for a second, because and what CBD can do for people in their sleep, because if you can't sleep, everything else starts to fall apart. And I think as we get older, as I'm getting older, I'm noticing no matter what I do, my sleep is still not what it used to be. So tell us a little bit about sleep and the value of it, and why people should consider taking your products to help them with that big challenge.
So kind of what you talked about with the whole homeostasis. So right. CBD, what all mammals have, we all have what's called an endocannabinoid system, which is named after cannabis. And it was discovered in the 1960s in Israel by, and I forgot the guy's name. But then kind of forgotten about, and then rediscovered again in the 1990s when medical marijuana became legal, and scientists were like, what is going on? What they did is they took a radioactive isotope, whatever that is, and put it on a THC molecule and then gave it to someone. And then they just followed that isotope around in the human body to see where it was going, what it was doing. And what they eventually found is that the human body has this giant, actually all mammals have this giant neuroreceptor called the endocannabinoid system. And they also found that the human body, or mammals, create endogenous, internally, natural cannabinoids. One is called 2-AG and the other is called anandamide. Anandamide is associated with the runner's high, or
the bliss molecule.
The bliss molecule, exactly. And you feel good after you work out and things like that. That's your body's created anandamide, which helps with the upregulation of serotonin. It makes you feel good. And it's actually very closely related to THC, funny enough. I, for one, have never had any marijuana, no THC outside of the small amount that could be in some CBD products. But what happens with the endocannabinoid system is, it's connected to every other system in your body. It's not the standalone thing. It's really part of the giant system of the body. It's connected to your respiratory system, your digestive system, your immune system, your central nervous system, your oh my God, all the systems. I
think you got this. I'm listening to your systems. I think you got them. I think you covered them.
There's 12 different systems that it's connected. I only touched on 4 of them.
Well, the interesting thing about what you said too is that I think it's what people don't realize, and this is why people think that CBD is kind of a new thing. It's really not. But what's interesting is like what you said is in the 60s, it was kind of discovered in Israel. And then the late 80s, early 90s is when it was really just kind of discovered, like you said, by that test in which someone consumed it and they were able to watch it go throughout the whole body. And that's what's really powerful about, what you're saying, the endocannabinoid system and what it can do, for your entire body. It's wild that we didn't know really that it existed until, again, until the late 80s, early 90s. So,
but hemp had been used as medicine for like thousands of years
since the beginning of time.
But no one knew why. It just worked.
Right.
And so you were like getting all those good, cannabinoids in the body, and that was helping the body heal itself. And that's sort of the thing about, CBD has also come out to be like the sort of panacea. It cures everything.
Sure.
And it doesn't actually cure anything.
Right.
What it does is it's like I like to call it like a super multivitamin for the endocannabinoid system.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what it does, it helps bring it back into homeostasis. And when that is back in sort of where it needs to be, back in balance, back in homeostasis, it pulls everything else back into homeostasis. And so the body starts to heal itself. It's not curing anything. It's like helping the body cure itself. It's natural immune function, digestive, respiratory, all the functions. And so part of that, like I said, the respiratory system, the central nervous system is part of that endocannabinoid system. And so CBD has shown to help tremendously with stress, anxiety, sleep issues, things like that. Now, you don't necessarily sleep like you did when you were 8 years old, but the quality, I measure my sleep every night. I use a Whoop band, and I can tell the difference between when I have CBD and when I don't, or how much I've had. If I've had like a super stressful day, I may take a lot of CBD before bed, and I, have a formula where we've thrown in some CBN as well. And that really helps me kind of like calm down and like go to bed when I'm supposed to go to bed, rather than like stay up, push back past when I'm tired. Oh, I need to finish this project. I don't need to finish anything. I need to go get some sleep, because sleep is the most important thing that you can actually do with your body. And so I wrote I did an Instagram video one day, and it was basically saying that Netflix is more dangerous than jumping from an experimental space capsule, jumping and parachuting back to Earth. And the reason is because people stay up and they just like one more episode of Netflix, one more. I won't watch Netflix ever again unless it's like maybe a movie. I'll never watch a series of anything, because I'm that guy that are like, oh, one more episode, and it's 4:00 in the morning. And so I've missed all the sleep that I need. And that's the way most people are. YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, whatever it is. And so the point of that post of like Netflix is more dangerous than like doing skydiving from space was because they're like, I don't know if you know this, what is the world record for how long you can stay awake? Guinness Book of World Records.
I don't know. I think it's like a week or something like that.
There's not one.
Oh.
And the reason why is because if you don't get sleep in your life, not sleeping will literally kill you. It's more dangerous. Not sleeping is more dangerous than jumping from space and skydiving back to Earth.
Wow.
So that's how important sleep is in your life, in your body, in your recovery, in like just health and staying alive. Like you need sleep. You need a certain amount of sleep every night. And if you can maximize the amount of sleep that you get, even better. And CBD and CBN and some other things help sort of promote that sleep in the body.
Now you had mentioned, your products. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but so tell me a little bit about, your products in particular at nw-recovery.com. If I'm listening right now, again, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, we have a lot of business people, people that have starting businesses, and they're stressed out. They can't sleep. They're dealing with all the same issues that I'm dealing with. So if someone were to go to nw-recovery.com and maybe try it for the first time, what would you recommend people do? How do they take it? And also maybe how quickly should they notice some sort of result?
So I have a whole line of products, from anywhere from tinctures, which is the pretty traditional, squirt it under your tongue and hold it there for a minute or two, to soft gels, which are pills, to topicals, to gummies. And what I found is that everyone is different. for me, when I took CBD, I didn't notice anything right away. I just took a snapshot of where I was, and then where I, today, and then where I was 30 days later. And there was a measurable difference, but there wasn't like a daily difference of like stress and anxiety and sleep and things like that. So it took me a while to like, now I can kind of dial in my sleep, but I've been taking CBD for a long time. But what I would recommend is most of my products, 98% of my products are a broad spectrum, which means we have all the good stuff from the hemp plant, all the natural, the minor cannabinoids, the CBD and the essential oils or terpenes in the product, but we remove the THC mostly because a lot of people out there are still, I'm a child of Nancy Reagan's just say no, we're on drugs. So I was hesitant to try CBD. I also still maintain a top secret security clearance. So I still get drug tested. So for people who have that's an issue for them, like they're concerned about drug testing, they're concerned about THC or anything like that, 98% of my products are perfect for you. And again, everyone is different. But I also have one product, it's actually two products, the same oil, just more CBD in it, that is a full spectrum product. That it has, that, 0.3% or less THC in it. Yeah. Which is a full spectrum product. And some people just do better off of that product. So those are the lines of products that I have. I have another product that I'm coming out very soon, probably not by the time this podcast comes out, but it's a little pump where you put it on pulse points or very thin skin where it's very vascular.
Transdermal.
And you kind of rub it together. It's a transdermal product, and to get some microdose CBD throughout the day. So that's coming. It's not there yet.
Okay. So again, people listening right now, if you had one of your products, they've never tried CBD, again, I think sleep is one of the big things that CBD really helps the best with, at least for me and the people that I know. I'm also in the CBD space, right? So, okay, someone goes to nw-recovery.com. I want to try it. I like you. I like your story. I like what you're doing. Sounds like it could work for me. If they only had one or maybe one or two, what would you suggest for maybe, again, because we've been talking about the sleep issue? Would it be the tincture and the gummies?
If you want to do sleep, I have a sleep formula. It's 25 milligrams of CBD, 3 milligrams of melatonin, and 3 milligrams of CBN.
Okay.
Because CBN is this sort of sedative, much more sedative molecule of the hemp plant. Mm-hmm. So if you're focusing on sleep, I would use the sleep formula. If it's just like stress, anxiety, things like that, either the orange tincture or the orange tincture broad spectrum or the key lime full spectrum tincture. Those are what I would recommend.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit right now. So someone goes to your website and because they're listening right here, we like to do things special. I didn't even talk to you about this, but I'm sure we can do it. If someone goes to your website and could they potentially get some sort of discount code from you right now? Or maybe
100%.
All right. What's that code?
100%.
Can we make it Alden? Can we just make the code Alden? Can we just make the code Alden? Can we? Yeah.
ALDEN.
ALDEN. So if they go to your website, nw-recovery.com, what are we going to do?
20% off.
20% off. Right now, I like that. So go to nw-recovery.com. You enter Alden in at checkout. And then obviously, I didn't even look, but I mean, look, you're a stand-up guy. I'm guessing obviously you provide a money back guarantee. But the thing too about it is it's funny how we connected. We connected from a CBD forum, which is kind of funny. I'm going to tell a story. So we pick up the phone, you and I were doing some business together, and then you just subtly dropped this whole Navy SEAL thing. And I was like, what? What exactly did you say you do? And then, so when I started to kind of look at, you and what you're doing, I just knew that you were a great person and a stand-up guy. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, and we kind of subtly touched upon it earlier, there's a lot of shit products out there. There's a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of stuff. You go to Amazon right now and you type in CBD, all these products are going to come up. But guess what? They don't have CBD in them because they're not allowed to sell CBD on Amazon as of at least right now. Right. So if you get 10,000 milligrams of full spectrum hemp oil, you might as well just go to the grocery store and get yourself olive oil because it's going to have the same effect. If you want a product that has been third-party tested, that is backed by a former Navy SEAL with 26 years of active service. Go to nw-recovery.com, enter in the code ALDEN. We're going to give you a 20% discount. Plus, he provides you with a money-back guarantee. So, William, before we do end the program, do you have any last thoughts with our viewers and listeners?
I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to just like what I was talking about earlier. So actually, I'm going to hit on something that you just said. So currently the CBD industry is not regulated by the FDA, which really doesn't mean anything, because if you go to Amazon and you buy some sort of supplement on Amazon, the supplement industry is marketed by, is regulated by the FDA. But if you go and test those products, most of those products aren't going to have what they say they have in them. And that is a fact. But the FDA has gone out and done some spot checks on many CBD companies, and they found that more than 75% of them don't have the CBD they say they have in them. They have high levels of heavy metals, toxins, arsenic, mercury, lead, high levels of THC, illegal levels of THC, and they don't have what they say they have in them, or they're making like medical claims. So if you find a product that is making a medical claim or is, a
panacea type product, like you said,
right, they're like, oh, it fixes everything, or they're not showing you like what the lab results for every batch of product that you have, then you probably should question it. Someone asked me once upon a time, what's the difference between your CBD product and the CBD I can get in the gas station? Well, the answer is, what's the difference between the sushi that you buy in a gas station and the sushi you buy in a sushi house? Are you really willing to roll the bones when it comes to your health? Are gas station sushi, really? Anyway, I'll end on that.
That's a great way to end it. Again, we've been on with William Branham, again, a former Navy SEAL, 26 years of active duty in the Navy. And, he started his company, Naked Warrior Recovery, to help to former military and actually active military as well, and also first responders. But his company as well helps everyone. I'm a big fan of CBD. If you've heard me talking about CBD, you probably have. And I'm also a proponent of good quality products. And when I met William, again, we met because we're in a CBD forum. I had no idea of his military experience when we started talking. I'm like, man, I'd love to have you on my podcast. So again, if you'd like some more information about William or his company, you can just go to nw-recovery.com. And if you do want to pick up the product, right, or I just put them on the spot, if you enter in the code ALDEN at checkout, you're going to get 20% off of your entire order. Plus, of course, he provides you the money back guarantee and all the things he was talking about, third-party tested, that shows you that there aren't heavy metals and toxins in the product, that there are the requisite amounts of CBD actually in there, and also shows you the complete profile of terpenes and things like that. You can just go right to his website. But you know what? You don't even need to look at all that stuff. The guy, look, he's got top secret clearance. He was in the military for 26 years. I mean, how could you not trust this guy, right? So again, if you'd like some more information about William, go to nw-recovery.com. You can find him on Instagram. It's at Naked Warrior Recovery, on Facebook, Naked Warrior Recovery CBD, Twitter at Naked Warrior Recovery, or you can just Google him. And here's the other thing too, is like, if you want to connect with William himself, send him a message. I mean, this guy, he speaks, he motivates people. He's been doing that as well. So if you want to motivate your team, you can also reach out to him and ask him about that. William, thanks so much for being my guest. My name is Mike Alden. That's William Branham, and we'll talk to you soon. Do you have trouble sleeping or even falling asleep? Well, I certainly do. Do you have aches and pains that limit your mobility? Is your life filled with stressful situations or even toxic personalities? What if I told you that I found a solution for you, created by a retired U.S. Navy SEAL to address his own sleep issues, his own aches and pains, and his own challenges from multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan? Well, that company is Naked Warrior Recovery. They're a Navy SEAL, combat veteran-owned and operated CBD company. Their dedication to quality and effectiveness is carried over from a lifetime of service and elite unconventional special operations teams to a small, unconventional company dedicated to providing the highest quality CBD on the market. Someone asked me, they said, Mike, what's the difference between Naked Warrior Recovery CBD and the CBD I can buy at the gas station? Well, my reply is simple. What's the difference between high quality sushi from a 5-star restaurant and gas station sushi? Well, I think we all know the answer. Are you willing to roll the bones for gas station sushi? Why would you take the same chance with gas station CBD? That's why I want you to go on and visit Naked Warrior Recovery by going to www.nw-recovery.com. That's www.nw-recovery.com. Because you're a listener of the Alden Report, we want to do something special for you where you can actually receive 15% off of your entire order. When you place your order, enter in the code podcast1 to receive 15% off of your entire order. Again, it's podcast1 at checkout. Podcast in the number 1. Again, visit www.nw-recovery.com and enter podcast1 at checkout to receive 15% off of your entire first order.